Hi, everyone. My name is Megan Matthews. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm the director for Washington State's Office of Equity. I am so thrilled you have chosen to tune in on this session of Equity Ain't Dirty. The Washington State Office of Equity exists to change our systems and our government processes and policies and practices so that everyone has the opportunity and the access to be able to navigate our systems and realize their dreams. And so we are here to really push back on this idea that equity is a bad thing, that equity is a thing that should be stopped and eliminated because equity does good work. And so in these sessions, we are meeting with leaders and in organizations who are continuing to do this work and to provide some clarity about what equity is and what equity means to them. We think it's important in this time to provide some more information and really share about the great work that's happening. And I hope that as you listen and when you leave, you will have more clarity on what this work actually is and what it is not, from more perspectives than mine, and some of the peers and colleagues that I really, really, truly respect. So I'm really excited for this session. We are here with Cami Feek, Director of Washington State's Employment Services. And I have worked with Cami for several years. We have a lot of respect for her philosophy, the great work that she's doing, and her vision. And so, Cami, I want to pass it over to you to share more about yourself and introduce yourself.
Sure. Thanks, Megan. And I am so thrilled to get to have this conversation with you, and am so grateful for the work that you and your office do to help all of us move forward in equity. I am the Commissioner of Employment Security Department. I've been in that role about 4 years now, and I have been in state government for 29 years. I'm in my 30th year. I know. I was 10 when I started. I have worked at all levels of government. I literally started in the mailroom in a temp job that wasn't supposed to last more than a few months. And so I have seen and experienced state government and impact in a lot of different roles. And I'm really excited to be able to, I think, in what is a really critical time for all of us, to be in a position to support our agency, Employment Security Department, in really helping with major programs that have impact to economic security. And so, although we're named in statute Employment Security Department, because in our beginnings we had unemployment insurance and reemployment services, we now have a whole breadth of programs that help people during really important times in their lives with paid family medical leave, with WA cares, with a lot of the work that we do. So our opportunity is significant to really support and help people, particularly in economic security.
Thanks, Cami. So my first question for you is, what does equity mean to you? And what are some misunderstandings about what equity is and is not?
Yeah, I think for me, equity is about how do we work to meet people where they're at, to make sure that how we treat people as individuals and in systems is in a way that everybody can benefit. And I think in government we often mix up equity and equality and think of them as the same thing, that if we give everybody the same, then we're really being fair. And that is often how our funding and structures and things are designed to work. And what we really need to do is to shift how we can both serve masses and also understand individual community or population needs that are different and meet those needs so that we can serve everyone. And if we develop the pathways to really understand those differences and make those adjustments, like that, I think is the key. And to do that, we really have to engage directly with the individuals that are impacted by our systems, and more importantly, not just the folks that are using them, but understanding who isn't using them and why.
I love that one, example. Probably my first example that stays with me in my state career, of which we are. Well, I guess, you have more years than me, but, that's the same
Just a
thing, like, "Oh,
couple.
I can't believe I'm still here," "I can't believe I'm still here 17 years later."
Yeah.
And I think, you and I have, because we've been with the state so long, we have a lot of on the systems and how they operate because we've experienced them as
Hmm.
we've navigated and moved through and promoted through state government.
Hmm.
Um, and one of the first examples that I remember is even with how I supervised when became a
Hmm.
supervisor, and I had team members who wanted to check in with me every morning, and then I had team members who were like, just talk to me when you need something from me or
Hmm.
something to
Hmm.
say. I'm good,
Hmm.
right? They
Hmm.
didn't need that. And if I had said, okay, everybody, we're going to meet every day, or
Yep.
everybody, we're going to meet twice a week, there were
Yep.
people who would not have been served by me as a supervisor well. They would not
Hmm.
have been felt supported and set up for
Hmm.
success. And so this is a simple example, but that's equity.
Hmm.
Treating people in
Absolutely.
the way that they want to be treated is
Hmm.
equity,
Hmm.
even in supervision. And many of you who may be leaders and
Yeah.
watching this session, you do equity every day,
Right.
right? Because you are interacting with the people.
Hmm.
Hopefully, you're interacting with the people
you,
in a way that
you
takes
better
care of the
be.
same. You know? There used to be that idea that you treat everybody the same, right?
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
that's how
Yeah.
are fair,
Yeah.
right? And I'm really grateful for how leadership is evolving to really
Me
understand
too.
that there's no way you can do that.
Hmm. Absolutely. I agree with you completely. And I've had those experiences in my career too. A lot of my leadership is shaped by how I've experienced things coming up through a number of different agencies in different ways. And that is really true. And I think there are small and big examples, and we sometimes hear this word and it's like it's so big. It's like, this giant thing. How can we make a difference? And that's a great example of like we can all make a difference every day in how we're interacting and treating each other, and especially as supervisors, managers, and leaders in state government, because we are both impacting and modeling for others like how to do this, and that's a big responsibility.
Exactly. I think, you've highlighted one of the points that I think, with the theoretical term or something like it's a concept of equity,
Hmm.
is that, there is something each of us can do. And when we
Hmm.
start thinking about, oh, the system in itself is just huge, that's true.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
we are all part of the system. We all make up the system.
Yeah.
And in state government, every employee is in the system and uplifting and the system. So no matter where you are, if you're a direct services provider,
Yeah.
the decisions you make when you're interacting and providing service to someone is equity, right? You have the
Totally.
opportunity, and
Yeah.
oftentimes as direct, service, when I was the front line, I had the opportunity to, um, uh, and the flexibility
Right.
to navigate and apply the
Mhm.
statute and the
Mhm.
policies in a way that supported someone,
Yep.
or you could do it in a way that made it harder for folks to,
Right.
you know, do whatever they needed to do. And so I think there's something that we can all do, and at the middle management
Uh-huh.
level and the exec level, there's, your scope is broader, so there's more you
Yep.
can do.
Yep.
And I think we just have to be more reflective about where am I, what is my sphere of
Mhm.
control, what can
Mhm.
I change, and
Mhm.
even prompting those sorts of questions in our team meetings and things like
Right.
that. No matter what your position is on the team, asking that question: What's one thing that we can all do
Right. And
right
I
today?
constantly remind people like leadership's informal also. Like you don't need a title to model good leadership, right?
Hmm.
You can influence others whether you're a supervisor or not, right? It's
Yeah,
by behavior, by sharing good ideas, by like centering the values of the organization and really living those. And that's the thing when I talk with new employees coming into the organization, when I get in front of leadership groups, that I try to remind them, no matter your level, like it is all of us, and we all have opportunities to have impact because informal leadership matters.
exactly, exactly. What is, some of what I think, at least in state government, but that's hard is that equity comes with risks of messing up.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so, as you're navigating your role in things, how do you learn from, things that you get wrong or your
Mm.
agency gets wrong,
Yeah.
and how do you make it safe or for others to do that, or how are you
Mhm.
courageous for yourself
Mhm.
to do that?
Yeah, I love that question because sometimes I learn like the easy way and sometimes I learn the hard way. I think the hard way are those visible. I think in state government, there is such a microscope on everything you do. And often there are things that become very public that, um, you know, aren't always the whole story, and you don't always have an opportunity to tell the whole story. And it makes it like hard for the people working in your organization when something goes wrong and it's all over King 5 or, the Seattle Times. And those often come across as like, you know, the agency's terrible, the people can't get it right, like whatever the thing is, and it's not true. And so, I think the best way that I have developed a way to learn is to not assess like was that good or was that bad? But to be able to say, like, what did I learn? And if it was incredible, how do I replicate that? Like if I learned that something really worked, how am I intentional about thinking about what contributed to that so that I can do more of that? And when it didn't go so well, to be able to say, like, what did I learn from that? And whatever happens in the agency, I have some level of accountability, and it may not be like the direct, like, did the thing, but I'm very reflective as a leader to say, like, oh, wow. So, if someone really um, believed that that's like the best decision to make and it had really significant impacts for the agency, then like, how do we have those conversations so that there's learning and understanding and we make visible the fact that we didn't make the right choice, not in a punitive way but in a way that says like, okay, this is about development, this is about learning as leaders. um, Across the like different ways that I engage with the agency, I talk a lot about being a learning organization, and what I mean by that is just what I shared. How do we understand the impact of what we're doing? And so it is both like formal in measurement in our strategic plan and like understanding in a cycle. We're really right now trying to figure out what these cycles are, where we can evaluate whether the initiative that we had under a specific goal for happy customers is having the kind of impact that we intended when we set that goal. And we're talking about it because we need to learn from it and we're checking back. And so it's that cycle. And as a leader, it's being able to like say, I messed up, because people need to understand that we all make mistakes. We are not here to be perfect. And what I will often share is we can make mistakes, but when we start making the same mistake repeatedly, that's where we have a challenge. If we have like mistakes that are made and the right kind of learning happens, we won't repeat them. And that, I think, is when I think about being a learning organization, is like, how do we continue to grow? And that is in the good things we're doing too, and highlighting those and being cognizant of like, this one mistake doesn't, take away from the 50 great things you just did. We all make them. We are human beings and we're all doing our best. So that's probably a long answer for that's a hard question, but I think, it is the responsibility and accountability that I tried to build in my role. And for those big external things, I really try to protect the agency. Like, that is my job, so that they can all do this work that is foundational to equity, which is the everyday things. How did I like make that decision on that claim? How did I talk to my coworker? How did I encourage a new employee to be part of this group? How did I, those are the things I want them to do, because they're really good at it and they care about it. That's how we get equity like built into the work, is through these incredible team members that are also community members, that are like the people that we're trying to serve as well.
Cami, I appreciate you. It's a hard question. It is a hard question, and I asked you because you are humble, and I knew you would start talking about. I love learning organization. I love that. That's
Mhm.
exactly what we are. That's exactly what
Mhm.
we should be striving to be,
Mhm.
right? And I really appreciate you for your vulnerability in sharing that, because
Thank
this is what people need leaders to they need their leaders to be saying. This is what they need to
you. Mhm.
hear, because
Yeah.
you're the leader of your agency. You're the commissioner of ESD.
Mhm.
um, if you're saying that, you've given permission to everybody else in your agency, and you may have given permission to some of your peers who are like, I don't know, can I, and they're like, well,
Mhm.
Cammy's
Mhm.
doing it, maybe I should be able to do it too, right? That
Yeah.
this is the sort of thing that we need more of, that we need to
Yeah.
be vocalizing more, that we need to be putting out more, is that, the accountability part, which is hard,
Mhm.
right? What
Mhm.
happens if
Mhm.
we make a mistake and it's on the news, or it's in the
Mhm.
media or something like that, or people are emailing and calling and things like that? What happens when that happens, right? And I think the accountability of government is important. And I
Yeah.
think people understand too that if we say, look, we're sorry we got it wrong, here's what
Mhm.
we learned, here's what we're trying to do, here's what we're trying to
Mhm.
rectify the situation. But also before that, showing up as, hey, I'm a human being, I'm here to listen,
Mhm.
I want to
Mhm.
grow, I want to make our agency better, I want to make our
Yeah.
systems better. Let's talk about that. I think you then invite the dialogue and conversation that we so much
Mhm.
need between state agencies and people who are living in our community who are not working for the state, even though we are also a part of the state, right?
Yeah.
That we need that dialogue and that collaboration. You invite that when you open yourself up and the agency that way. You also provide space for your team members to be reflective and reflect on what they could have done better, or replicate what they did that worked really well,
Mhm.
which is all part, as you're saying, of a learning organization. I
Mhm.
like the idea of iteration,
Yeah.
where right now we're getting ready to launch a resource hub, and
Mhm.
talking about, like, this isn't going to be perfect. There's no such thing, right?
No.
Even when we take
Mm-mm.
10 years to launch something, Cami, it's still not perfect, right?
And actually, it's far from perfect, because we took so long, like that. It's so different, like the, and that's the thing that I think, there's that saying about letting perfection be the enemy of good. And there is a culture of fear in most organizations, and ours is no different, around getting it wrong. And that like it in as much as like I'm telling you how my worldview and what I've shared in the organization and what we're striving towards, we have a long journey to go. But this idea of iteration is so important, because if we try to solve for like the giant solution, we take so long that the people that are counting on us to make changes don't see any relief or impact, right? From whatever those barriers are, whether they're internal or external to good experiences with government, with state agencies, with ESD. And so, we have found that sometimes when we really like dive in and have those conversations like you're talking, and are like come from the place of like, hey, we hear you, like a place that's like neutral in terms of not being defensive about an issue, like we find that sometimes we can make a change on wording on our website that all of a sudden, instead of like 10 clicks, people in 2 clicks are getting what they need, right? Like
Nice.
all because we had a conversation, and, you know, we didn't go out and redesign the website, although we just did that. It's one of the big changes we just made, and we got an award for plain language on our unemployment insurance page for our claimants. But like there are, like, if you're going to do that work, don't not change the language waiting for the website redesign, right? Like it
Right.
is, you know, both and, right? Where
Mhm.
you can make those small changes. And in fact, if you deliver something earlier, then you get more of the feedback from the actual users
Mhm.
about how helpful that is, and you can continue to refine it, not based on like a point in time engagement, or like what your team may have like realized through their interaction with the users of that, but actually in real time. And that's powerful. That's
Yeah.
powerful.
And you hit on something too, a point in time engagement versus like over time engagement, because
Mm,
things change. I know
yeah,
even, the Office of Equity is really new. It's a new office, right?
yeah,
The first, team members or first director wasn't hired until 2021.
right.
And, for me, as I'm doing this, I'm also learning about, okay, what can I influence? How can I influence
Mm-hmm.
it? And as I'm hearing from people too, it's like, okay, here's what we can try. Let's work on this with
Yeah.
projects that we're choosing is based on feedback. But then you have to keep it up because we're all
Oh,
learning as we're
yeah.
doing it, because there is no manual for this. There's no,
No.
how do you do this? How do you do equity? How do you do? Nobody knows. All I keep telling people is, look, all I know is together. All I believe is that together we can figure it out. That's it. I
Yeah.
don't know what
Yeah.
the answer is, and I love that you said that. I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
either. But
Yeah.
all I can believe is that together we can figure out a better path
Yeah.
forward than we
Yeah.
have on our own. And that by me, it also um, takes pressure off us to say,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the answer, right? Because
Yeah.
historically, you expect the leader to have the answers. So me saying I don't have
Right.
the answers, help me figure this out, right?
Yeah.
It will allow us to provide those better
Yeah.
solutions, because Megan don't know everything. I don't know if you knew this, Cami, but I don't know everything.
Thank goodness, because if you did, I would be calling you every day, because I don't like, for me, like good leadership is about starting from a place that says I don't know everything. Good leadership is about understanding like what your strengths are and surrounding yourself with a diverse team that bring different perspectives and strengths, and that creates friction sometimes, like, but that's a natural part of like how do we get to better solutions and ideas. It's not through having a team that like looks and talks like me, because if that's the team, they're just going to agree with me, and that's not good for anybody, right? And I think that is part of like how do you create a culture where people can really trust and believe that that's true. And that's hard because positional authority is a thing, experience is a thing, and how you bring that all together. We are still really on that journey of like, how do you create a culture where people believe that, right? Where people see it at all levels, because I can say one thing, but if someone's supervisor gives them a wholly different experience, we still have a lot of progress to go. Or if like I say one thing and then it's disconnected in something else I do, it's that
Mhm.
broad, like, how do we both have the capacity and time to build those connections and make sure these full visions and understanding are out there, but that we also are supporting our leaders and understanding how to really embrace in our agency values of love, equity, belonging, stewardship, right? And access, right? And like what those mean. And it's, it is a long game.
Yeah.
Culture's the hardest thing to shift, but you're totally right. If I come at it knowing everything, I'm not going to be an effective leader in my book in terms of like how we actually succeed together and have the biggest impact possible.
Yeah, I love what you said about having a diverse team and not wanting everybody to come from a perspective that's just going to agree with you, because you're missing out on perspectives that can allow you to have a better product.
Yeah.
And we have lots of data on that that show that more, diversity of thought, right, is what we're getting to. So
Hmm.
how do you have enough perspectives with enough
Hmm.
variance to have really thoughtful
Yeah.
conversations to produce better products and outcomes? I
Right.
wonder what you think about how do you get to diverse teams? Because I think, some of the narrative around, diverse hiring is, oh, they're looking
Mhm.
for, one Black woman and they're looking for one person with disabilities.
Mhm.
And they're looking for one,
Mhm.
and it's we got to have this quota and this number and this that.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
how do you how what does that mean for you? How are you working on increasing the diversity of your team?
Yeah, I mean, I that's a space where I've been really reflective because it's been bumpy. Like it has been bumpy. Um, we like I have really challenged the team to say like if we're going to be different, we have to be different together. We've got to like get to that spot where as a leadership team, like we decide how we want to do this and
Mhm.
what that really looks like. And that means that like people have to see consistency over time to back up like what's being said. So
Mhm.
these are our values. Like they've got to see them in action, but you're also working with leaders that are the ones that have to like set the tone for what this looks like. And we have had some churn in our executive team because of that. And what I can say about that is like we have like hung in there because I have hung in there because I know what you're saying is absolutely at the heart of like how we have the biggest impact as an organization, how we build high performing teams. And it's not for the faint of heart. It is hard work.
Mhm.
And one of the things that we're trying to do is build into how we do this ways to like understand and measure that. And what I mean by that is like our executive team just did this exercise to rate how we work in conflict together, right? From like
Mhm.
false sort of, in like agreement all the way to like hostile open disagreement. And like where are we? And we all rated sort of the team and ourselves, and we had a comparison from a what from like 2023. But and that's because that like assessment over time, like cultural changes, like changes in how you work together take time. Um, so it's being intentional in hiring. And what I mean by that is like what kind of leader do you want? In terms of like, what is the expectation for an executive leader at ESD? What does that look like in values? What does that look like in behaviors? What does that look like? We can teach a lot. Like, we can teach people. We've got subject matter experts in all of our programs, like, that are phenomenal. Like, they know the things about those programs. From a leadership perspective, like, how do we work as a team? So I have been talking to our executive leadership about our first team, us together leading the agency as a team that knows how to talk to each other when they have challenges, that knows how to like have an opinion about whatever we're talking about, whether they're in charge of it or not, about a team that will like speak up and challenge ideas. And I think how that happens is by staying in the conversation, reinforcing the values, like being able to actually have some way to understand whether you're moving that direction or not. And seeing the measure of the impact of like our programs through that collective leadership, because our job is to develop people and support our teams to deliver the strategic plan. Like that, those are the highest priorities of our organization. So we talk about that, we have measurement day, but like, how are we doing that in a way that both you know honors who we are as people and leaders, and builds in the accountability to say like, that's all great, but also how are we measuring it?
I love what you said, because oftentimes people, we take a lot of actions. We want to do this work, so we take actions.
Mhm.
We don't really have a way to assess, are we actually changing things in the way
Mhm.
we want to change them? And so I
Mhm.
love what you talk about your leadership team assessing yourselves and your leadership culture,
Mhm.
and trying to understand what can we then take from that
Mhm.
to continue moving it forward, or what it maybe
Mhm.
got worse that we want to change.
Mhm.
So I love that. And I highly recommend that anyone who is trying to change whatever or do whatever, there's always some sort of assessment. We
Mhm.
started something in our office, our pulse surveys, where
Mhm.
we're trying to hear from our team members to say,
Yep.
okay, are we going in the right direction? We are a small team.
Mhm.
We are a new team, but we also
Yeah.
grew, and so when you bring a lot of different perspectives into the place and you're trying to create a space that is welcoming for all, and you're right, everyone comes from
Yeah.
different backgrounds and experiences, and sometimes how you operate is a direct, I don't want to say threat, but like it is hurtful to someone else, right? And
Yeah.
so what it look like
Totally.
to build a space where we can both give and take to create that opportunity for everyone. And it is, one of the things we're working on in our office is our communication,
Yeah.
and things are always moving so fast, and you think
Yeah.
you're communicating, but it's not getting where it needs to
Yep.
be. And so we are really, really trying to work on how we communicate to
Yeah.
everybody in our office, what and when and at what point, to make sure folks feel like they understand what's happening, they're brought in when they need to be,
Yeah.
they're caught up on what's happening in the office, wherever we
Yeah.
can. And it's a struggle.
It
It's a
is.
struggle,
It is.
and so I just want to
Yeah.
share too that we don't have the answers. We're trying to figure these things out
Yeah.
as well. But I like what you said about we're committed to keeping trying and that being that learning organization.
Yeah.
I also like what you said about the hiring, because what you talked about is, what are our values? What does that look like?
Right.
What do we want for this role? Hiring is
Mhm.
it's all preference, right? And hiring,
Yeah.
you are hiring for something, for
Mhm.
someone,
Mhm.
for an
Mhm. Yeah.
individual. You are
Yeah.
selecting for something. It's
Mhm.
bias, right? It should
It
be
is.
bias
Yeah.
that we're aware of,
Yeah.
but it is a preference, right? And so
Mhm.
as you're writing your position description and the
Mhm.
competencies, the skills, the requirements,
Mhm.
you are choosing some things over other things.
Yeah.
So it's
Mhm.
important, I think, for us to recognize that. And so as you're thinking about, what do you want your leadership team to be, what do you want the competencies, the
Yeah.
knowledge, the skills, the
Yeah.
abilities of your leaders you are putting things in that will either broaden your candidate pool or
Mhm.
shrink your candidate pool.
Yeah.
And I love what you say. So just to let folks know what we're talking about, it's not saying we're in this hiring, we're going to hire, we don't care what the candidate pool looks like, we're going to hire one person with or who is.
Yeah.
That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about being thoughtful about your processes and
Right.
your criterias and things like that. And that is and also where you're recruiting, your
Yeah.
recruitment strategies, right?
Yeah.
All of those things will help you broaden your candidate pool, which means more
Totally.
people have the opportunity to apply. And as
Yeah.
you are going through with the interview questions, how you assess, your reference checks, all of that stuff
Mhm.
will either allow people to compete
Yeah.
or not.
Mhm. Yeah, and I love that we have an executive order on inclusive hiring that's like really sort of broadening access and our pools to individuals that can bring so much to our organizations. And, a lot of these things that we're talking about, like they're so easy to do, like say, and they're hard to do. They're like simple and really difficult to implement. And so, we're in that process right now. And I think I was smiling a lot when you're talking about poll surveys. Our focus for our employee engagement right now is about change management. And a big part of that is the communication associated with people feeling like their voices are heard. And we're doing poll surveys, and I sat down with the team yesterday. And one of the questions in that poll survey is, when you say senior manager, who do you mean? Because I see those, like how you ask questions sometimes, like we're getting to a deeper layer of some of the questions on the employee engagement survey to say, like, to understand what our opportunity is. And we had this great conversation yesterday, and Samba, our change manager, looked me in the eye and she's like, when they say senior management, they mean you and the executive team, and like, maybe their division director, which is usually the executive team. So listen up. And I was like, awesome. Like, this is like, you can't impact things when you don't know what to impact or how, because you don't go that layer to really understand. So it's hiring leaders that invite that understanding, right? That aren't like, oh my gosh, well, if something's wrong, then I'm a bad leader. No, if
Yeah.
something's wrong, you need me, because
Mhm.
I am the person that can like support the team, community, whatever the right resources are to solutions to solve for that problem. I can do that. And in my role, I have access to like the priority of resources in our agency, across the agency. I don't make those decisions in isolation, but like that holds a lot. So it's important, like, for me to listen. It's
Mhm.
important for me to like go to that next layer of understanding, to say, like, what do you mean by senior leader? And also, what was really cool in this poll survey is employees and supervisors aligned on like what they need. So
Mhm.
employees said, like, we need more information, and supervisors said, we need better talking points and tools to like help you in these things. Wow. Like,
Yeah.
we got a bingo there. We can do
Yeah.
something, right?
I think that's beautiful, and I love that you are talking about the survey, right? In a real way to say, what does this mean?
Mhm.
What do these dots and
Mhm.
percentages and things like that actually mean? What can we do in our
Mhm.
organization? Because sometimes it's hard to hear, right? I mean,
Yeah,
there's being real feedback. Sometimes, man, it hurts your feelings. You're like, dang
it
it,
does.
when you
I'm
have
like,
that check in,
dang,
you're like, I'm horrible. I'm
I
terrible. I'm
might
this
go
and that,
home and
right?
cry tonight.
Right? And then you
And
pull yourself
I
up,
have.
right? And
Yeah.
then you pull yourself up and you're like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
this is actually a
Yeah.
gift because
Yes.
I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
I don't know everything. And there's
Yes.
something that we can improve, right?
Yeah.
People are giving us an
Yeah.
opportunity. They're sharing feedback with us.
Yeah.
They're giving us an opportunity. And then let's have a conversation about what this really
Yeah.
means because they're probably not talking about me as a horrible person. They're probably talking about some of the things that we're doing
Right.
that we need to improve as a learning organization. And so let's have
Totally.
that conversation and opening up that ability for people to say, no, they mean you. Like, what are the things that
Right.
you can do? What can we do? And collectively, and how are some of the things pulling
Yeah.
together where it's maybe there are a couple of tweaks we can make or little minor
Sure.
adjustments that we
Yeah.
make to make this big impact.
Yeah, for sure. And sometimes those gifts, like we don't like how they're wrapped, and so we like are like, I'm returning this thing because you did not wrap it in a way that like feels good to me. And it's like you're like that, like exterior, like there's probably something beautiful inside if you're like willing to open it up. You can't just, I mean, if you choose to look at how it's wrapped, you will miss some of the best like feedback of your life. And that's it's hard, it's humbling, it hurts. Like it sometimes does not feel good, and I'm human, and so I don't always respond with like grace. I try to,
Yeah,
but I'm reflective. And so if I didn't and I walk away and I think, what was I doing? I was defensive. Like I go back and say, like, hey, we had this conversation. I was defensive. Like, I'm sorry. And like, here's what I heard. Like,
yeah,
there's very little that can't actually be fixed in some way if
yeah.
we make the effort and are willing as leaders to model that and do that.
Girl, my conscience be getting me sometimes too. It'd be like, go back. You know, you still won't go where you're like, okay, I gotta go back. I'm sorry. Listen, I'm sorry.
No,
Okay.
I
Yeah, the
know.
conscience right there, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And what sometimes I think about, like, what's the impact if I don't? Because that's what drives me, right? Like, there is an impact, like, and sometimes it doesn't happen in the moment. Sometimes it's like in proximity. I try to do in proximity, but sometimes like it takes me a little bit of time to like figure out how to best do that, depending on what it was, right?
Yeah,
But I think about the other person. I think that's like at the core of where I sit is I think about the other person.
yeah, I love it. I could sit and talk with you all day, Cami.
Right.
I'm gonna ask my one last question for you. Is in one or two sentences, tell us why equity ain't dirty.
Oh my gosh. There is absolutely nothing dirty about everyone thriving. And we should all be able to meet basic economic needs: food, housing, clean water, healthcare. And what I will say is, if that's dirty, I'm a dirty girl because I am all for it.
I love it. Thank you so much, Cami. Uh, you talked about an updated website. How can people stay engaged with you or ESD?
Absolutely. So our website is basic, esd.wa.gov. Go check it out. It's beautiful. I am on Facebook as ESD Commish, Commish. I am also under my name on LinkedIn, and Employment Security Department is out there under LinkedIn. You should check that out for sure, and the same with Facebook. So go find it. We try to share as much information as we can about what's going on. And I would love to engage with any and all of you out there in social media or otherwise.
Thank you. Cami, I appreciate you. You are such a gift.
Oh, thank
I
you.
appreciate your humility, your vulnerability, your dedication to improving. This is hard work. It really is hard. And you have stepped into that with courage and grace. And I appreciate every time I get to talk with you. I'm always learning something and I'm always inspired to keep moving forth. And you let me know that I'm not doing this by myself, that we
No.
have a lot of folks who are in this to improve state government
Yeah.
and be better and better leaders every day. I really appreciate your the term learning organization because I think that's what we all should be. We all are. I mean, whether we went to,
Hmm.
we're all learning, we're all getting it wrong, right? And
Yeah.
so I love that, and I love the ability of you to encourage your team members to get there, your senior leadership, and everyone in ESD to get there as well. I hope that you all who are viewing this, have something to take, a little nugget to take from this episode. This session, I know I have, and I'm hoping that now that you have more information about what equity, is and what it isn't, I hope you are feeling too that equity ain't dirty. It's necessary.
It is.
I hope that you can ask yourself, how can I contribute to equity in my daily life? And so with that, I will conclude. Be well, take care of yourselves, and take care of each other. See you next time.